Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Anime Summit Podcast. I am Mac, and with me I have Sam.
What's up? What's up? What's up?
And I have Nick.
What up, everybody?
And today we are going to be talking about how we rate things and rating scales in general. But before that, how are all of you guys doing?
Doing good, dude. You know, what with all the Kavifs going around.
The Kavif.
Surviving.
I don't know if I've actually ever heard that word before, so that's a new
You gotta
one.
use a hand motion when you say it.
Kavif.
You know, like, it's just weird because it was left up there so long. Like, that's the only weird
That's
thing
the
about
Trump
it. And
tweet.
That's why everyone's making fun of it, because it's like, because if I had made a mistake in a tweet, I'd just delete it and redo it right away. You know what I mean? But
And
dude, it's the
before
meme.
Donald Trump tweets.
That's how we got there. That's how we staying, Sam, alright?
Something like that.
Or maybe not.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway.
Anyway, I'm glad to hear all of you guys are doing good after I flew up to Minnesota and fixed every single one of you guys' cars.
Yeah, dude.
Because that's what I do.
We went,
I
Base
we went
Southwest
to
Airlines.
O'Reilly's and Max just like, "Ba-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da-ba-da," and I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna look at the keychains.
That is true though.
That's what
Like
happened.
I was talking to the guy at O'Reilly's, and Nick was just like, "Oh, keychain."
It sounded like the Charlie Brown teacher. It was like, wah, 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 wah.
Pretty much. So, now that we got that shit out of the way, news for the week. News.
And back to our anchor, Nick Boner. Beep, beep,
Dick
beep, 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 beep,
Boner.
beep,
This
beep,
is some
beep, beep,
deja
beep, beep.
vu. All right, so Aramanga Sensei gets its own airplane. Mac was the one who posted that story.
Exactly, because my little Piper can't be this cute. Apparently, a flight academy out of Nagoya, Japan. Shout out to Nagoya, because that is where I stayed at whenever I was in Japan originally. Shout out to Kosuke Kagawa. Apparently, this flight school out of Nagoya decided that they were going to take one of their Piper airplanes and put it in the livery for Aramanga Sensei. So, yeah, if you ever wanted to fly, if you ever wanted to get behind the stick of Saguri, then you need to fly to Nagoya, Japan, and request the PA-46 light aircraft that this certain flight academy has, because that is very important. And you will get to fly around in a plane that has pictures of
You got
what
Elf, you got
people are
Muramasa,
riding as. Yeah.
Sagiri.
You've got like multiple waifu.
Or Emo's
potential
on there too.
this
Some of
plane.
those guys are on there.
Multiple waifu potential. So, yeah, that's a thing. I don't know really why they did it, but
I don't know why we're talking
apparently-
about it. It's
because
not
I
that
found
newsworthy.
it. I found it, and I found it worthy of being talked about, because fuck you guys.
All right, moving on.
Moving on, Air Manga Sensei sucks.
No, Sam. It's one of the best non-sequels this season. All right, put a little respect
Even
on it.
though- No, it's not better.
That's not a high bar.
It's not better than Sakura Quest. Sorry.
It's got more memes and long-term growth potential, so I'm investing in Aramanga Sensei. Thank you.
I mean, it has more.
So it's a troll show. That's
It
why.
has-
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, got it.
Yeah.
It may have more memes, but the long-standing effect of the show
It'll
is not
probably
going to be as good as Aramanga Sensei.
Well, no. Here's the thing: Sakura Quest is going to be "quote unquote" better, but Aramanga Sensei is going to have more of an impact. You know, everyone will be like, "Oh, I need my waifu," and you know they're not going to be looking at Sakura Quest, dude. They're going to be looking at some 12-year-old girls in Aramanga Sensei. You know,
Sakura Chest, yeah, that one.
Oh my god.
that's just how it is.
All right.
You got to roll with it. If you can't beat them, join them. Join us
Nope.
on the lolly
Sakura
side.
Chest.
Oh man.
No.
No.
What else we got? What else we got? More news.
PA Works Animator Training Course.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Pretty cool.
So they're opening up a training course. It's like apparently going to be salaried. It's like another way of training animators because like they had other methods of doing it. People would, just jump into animation through various means. But now there's like a studio specifically sponsoring their own program.
Thank you, Based PA Works.
Yeah. Speaking of Soccer Quest, PA Works. Yeah, there we go.
Exactly. And speaking of big news, apparently Hibike Euphonium is getting more movies. So if you're like me and you love Hibike, then you should definitely check that out because Based Kill Annie.
Yeah, and Crunchyroll also added Serial Experiments Lane. If you haven't seen that one yet, it's quite the mind fuck. It delves a little bit into internet culture, or at least what they thought it would be in the late 90s. So it's really cool, and it's by Yoshitoshi Abe. He did Haibane Renmei and Technolize. So definitely check out Lane. It's great. It's got a good opening too. If nothing else, at least watch the opening on YouTube. It's really good.
Nice. Crunchyroll adds Serial Experiments Lane. Look, this is a good anime. I think it's kind of one of those ones where it's like you kind of have to.
It's
watch,
an elitist
at least
anime,
give it,
Sam. You can't be elite unless you've seen it.
give it at least 3 eps.
No, watch the whole thing,
Actually,
dude.
no. Actually, you should probably just watch.
Here's the thing: either watch it or don't watch it, because it's already like a cult classic. We don't have to decide whether or not it's worth watching. Like we're still talking about it 20 years later. Obviously, it's worth watching.
True. That's true.
That is a good point.
That is a good point.
Yeah, so I mean,
All
you
right.
don't have to like it. Shit, I'm not gonna like come into your house and like, stab you or anything. As much as, as much
So
as
also,
fun that'd be,
if you are a frequenter on our anime, they have started their best girl contest.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to get into into that massive salt fest, you may.
Lane is in the contest, I believe. I believe she's in it. I don't think she's gonna get past the first round because she's not waifu material. But shit, they allowed the characters from this year aren't allowed. So everything from last year and above, ReZero is allowed now. So that'll be fun to see Rem.
So if
beat
you want to
bunch
be a
of good
basic bitch
characters.
pleb and nominate Rem as your favorite waifu, you may, but she's basic bitch tier.
Dude, she's gonna beat Holo, and you're gonna get salty.
Basic bitch tier. She is.
I mean, you
though.
mad?
I'm not. No.
They made a good hype video for that. We'll link it in the show notes.
Are you saying that to me? Because that's like far from what I am. Like.
Sam doesn't have.
I'm not
waifus,
saying
he
it to you.
has-
I'm saying it to all the viewers.
Everything
the
oos.
viewers.
Oh yeah, all the viewers. Yeah, are y'all mad?
Yeah, are you you mad? You mad in the show notes?
Rem's a basic bitch.
I don't know. Rem's not that basic. Well, she is sometimes. There's like 4 episodes where she was not basic, which is cool, but
Look, she didn't get there by herself. She got there when all the people thought the show was awesome.
Yeah. Toward the end of the show, she got pretty basic, which is pretty stupid. But yeah, there's a part in the middle where she was great.
Sure.
Just ignore all the flaws around it.
Ignore all the flaws.
She did have a lot of
Ignore all
flaws.
the-
She did.
Okay, so a couple more little things. Let's see what we got.
Oh,
here.
there's well, this one's related to the topic, I guess. It's not really news. Okay, well, I'll save that one for later. Never mind. So,
well, I got one more, and then you can
Go
say
ahead,
that
go
if
ahead.
you want. But I mean, just the freaking our anime on Reddit, the Studio Trigger Patreon update.
yeah, that was
Leaked.
leaked recently, like yesterday.
Yeah, because they said something like they were gonna do a Patreon,
Yeah, they did.
and then I think now they're finally thinking it's gonna happen or nah.
Yeah, so it's like apparently it's like one guy at Trigger who's like the spokesman for it, and he just goes on 4chan and tells all the filthy gaijins their plans. So throw your money at Trigger if you want Patreon if you want it to start working with other studios, then maybe throw a couple of bucks their way. Patreon.
Right.
Because this is another way to get revenue streams into anime, and if we do that, then we'll hopefully get higher quality stuff and not just more stuff. which we already can't keep up
Says
with
the
this
guy.
number.
Says the guy who's always like pirate stuff.
Yeah, well, no, I'm saying, dude, I want more good stuff, not just more stuff. So
I know, but you're talking about like, you're like, oh, give them money, but then
yeah,
you're
give them
also
money so
saying-
they can make more good shit, dude. If I know
Nah, you don't know-
exactly
you
where my
don't-
money's going, then I'm fine with it. Yeah. But if it's like, if I'm paying for some subpar service that doesn't give me what I need, then
Oh, I guess I
Why-
kind of see what you
why
mean.
would I
Okay. All right. Well, anyway, let's. Oh yeah, the thing you were gonna say. What was the thing you were gonna
Oh, that
say?
was it actually. I think
This is
there's
related
one.
to the topic?
There's
okay.
one lower in the list here. You can see it under the next section. We'll talk about that later. Anyway,
Okay.
we got the waifu of the week, Mac.
Let's go to the waifu of the week. No, I can do it. Waifu of the week is you know what? Since Mac fixed our cars, waifu of the week is the
Some girl from Initial D, dude.
No, dude, it's the A86 Toyota. Is the waifu of the week.
Yeah, we said that.
Yeah. So
It's a heads up for our viewers. We're re-recording this because we had some
Don't say
technical
that. No, it's fine.
difficulties.
Don't worry about it.
No, technical
we don't have to tell
difficulties. It's
people
fine. They gotta know. I'm just gonna say it. Fuck it.
Okay, I'm gonna tell Mac to cut that.
Why?
out.
Who
We don't need
cares?
to say that. Because it's unnecessary.
Well,
We don't need to say
podcasts
it.
do that all the time. All right.
I know, but then it doesn't sound genuine now when we say shit. Like,
It's fine. It's better to just get it out in the open, Just fart it out a little
Or
bit.
not say it
Just
at
fart it out
all.
a little bit. Be honest.
or not say it at all.
Is Mac
Okay.
there? Mac, are you there? Mac's been
Of
No,
course
see,
I
that's
am.
Mac's been drinking and has a bit of a hangover going on. So
I do not have a
say that
hangover.
either.
well, he's got the pre-hangover. Whatever.
Don't say that either. Oh my god, dude.
Why would we
Cut
not say
all of
this?
this out.
Why would we not say this? This is relevant to the podcast.
Okay, look, so Mac went and drank, and then Mac drank a little bit too much. So life is going to happen. We are going to do this episode regardless of how I feel. So, on to the main topic.
Okay, well, the main
Or-
topic is
okay,
rating
yeah.
systems, as Mac
Rating systems. Here
said
we go.
earlier.
Exactly, rating systems.
So the thing is about rating systems is, I think it's pretty common that, probably just because like my anime list made it like that, but like, the common way to rate shows is like on a 1 to 10 scale, or whatever, right? But then it poses the question: it's like, why do we use rating systems? Are they necessary? What do they mean? What factors are the most important when determining these ratings? And things like that. So, why do we use rating systems? First of all, like why does movies get 5 stars and 4 out of 5 stars, and why does anime have
10 out of
10.
10 and blah, 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 blah.
yeah? Why do television shows have 2 thumbs up, 5 stars, whatever? You know what I mean?
And you can
So why do we use?
you can thank
you can-
Mal for the 10 out of 10 scale because
That's true.
yeah, Mal uses the 10-point rating scale.
IMDb
which
does that too, if I recall correctly. But
you are correct. IMDb does as well. But most of our viewers, if they bother with Mal, are going to be more familiar with the 10-point rating scale,
yeah, I mean,
which I feel is if you're going to go into an anime and you're going to rate it at least halfway subjectively, then a 10-point is going to get you further. But if you're just going to be like a complete casual watcher, like, oh, this was pretty great, but this was pretty good, then, a 5-point scale would probably be better for you.
yeah, or even a 3 or a 4.
Or just a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Yeah, binary, man. That's all you need. 2 points.
Binary scale.
YouTube style. And then you got to put
YouTube
your
style,
review
yeah.
has to be the quality of a YouTube comment when you do that. It's good. It's bad. Fuck you, bro. Look at that tie. It looks terrible. That's a YouTube comment.
So why do we use rating systems? I mean, I think my answer would just be like, well, we use them to kind of what do we say? Like the to kind of, I think it's just kind of us personally to differentiate like how we we like and what we don't like, and what we thought was good and what we didn't think was good, or what we thought was just okay. You know, it's also nice to have it. It's almost like have it recorded, so that way if someone asks, hey, what did you think of this show, it's like, oh, well, I gave it a 6, you know, blah blah whatever.
Yeah, it's just a shorthand.
To
It doesn't replace a review or the discussion, though. That's the main thing.
Right.
You should say, like, first of all,
I think it's supposed to, if anything, it's supposed to intro to like the discussion.
It's just a way to label stuff.
It gives
really.
your introductory opinion about a show, because a rating will only give you so much.
Yeah,
and
it's arbitrary and
ratings-
abstract.
Yeah,
It doesn't mean
ratings
the same
are
based on different people. you know?
ratings are highly dependent on who is actually rating the show, because you know personal bias and personal opinions do come into play in that.
Right. So,
Yeah, it's really just
are they?
a relative measure of quality and how much you like the experience. Really, that's the rating system.
So then the next question is like, are they necessary? I think they are, just because it's easy to like have it like in your mind, like written down. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
because you kind of need a basis to compare one show to another, even though you know you may have two shows of the exact same genre, but a lot of times, even though you have two shows of the exact same genre, they're not going to be easily comparable, but still having that rating system will help you draw the lines between the two of them, at least in your own mind.
Right. There are some things that are like that I have on my mail that are same scored. But like I know for like Gunbuster and Diebuster, I gave Gunbuster a 9 and Diebuster a 8. Just so like when people looked at it, cuz I thought they were both awesome, don't get me wrong, but I wanted people to know that I thought that I enjoyed Gunbuster, that I thought Gunbuster was better when they look at my mail. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I gave one an 8, one a 9, or whatever.
I like to look at them as, we're still asking if it's necessary. I think it's like half necessary. If you're just talking about stuff, if you're like able to talk with somebody about a show, then it's completely irrelevant. Like if I'm sitting here talking to you about it and be like, well, it's an 8, and you're like, well, it's a 7. It's like, that doesn't fucking mean anything really. You just got to say, how well do you think it executed on its premise? Like, what was it trying to do, and how well did it do it? That's really the basis, like the crux of it all. So a point, or you know, a tier or a letter grade, none of that shit matters in the context of discussion, in my opinion. I think it's just a shorthand way to sort stuff that you've seen in a way that's like, oh, these are my relative rankings, more or less. Like that's what I like to use the rating systems for. And yeah,
right.
And I guess I'll kind of segue into, I don't think that the numbers, God, we described this on the other one. So the numbers, the Mal numbers are flawed inherently, because the way they describe it on Mal, if you click on a rating, like a score rating, let me click on this really quick. So I'm gonna go click on an anime, and it's gonna give me like a one-word description of something. So like if they say a 5 is average, 1 is appalling, 10 is a masterpiece, and so on. Throughout the whole thing. People don't use the scores like that, because most Mal ratings are like a 7 or a higher, and it doesn't correspond to like the percentage. It's not like percent of how well it was made. So like, oh, this is only made 50% as good as it could be, therefore it's a fail. Like 5 is not a 50%. 5 is just, the number in the middle. That's like the percentile, but not how well. It's the percentile, not the percent of how good it was made, or how well it was made. At least that's how I see it. So people don't use them like that on Mal. You got to understand that people like to think in terms of letter grades. We're like, oh, a 7, that's 70%, that's a C. It's like, no, that's not. If you go by any sort of curve, and we'll talk very broadly about this because it's hard to do it on a podcast. But like, if you watch a large number of shows, the more you watch, the bigger the number you get. You're going to approach some sort of distribution. So probably it'll be close to some kind of normal distribution with like a, it'll be skewed one way or the other probably. Unless you watch everything, then who knows how it'll be. But like, people just need to understand that it's not uniformly distributed. It's not like 10% of everything is a 10, 10% of everything is a 1. Because then you'd see all that in every season, right? Or most seasons. So I'm kind of ranting a little bit here, but do you guys have any like thoughts on those types of things?
Yeah, see, I think you're making it too confusing at that point. Like, I feel like
it's easier with
'cause
images.
I'm looking at your profile. Well, I'm looking at your profile, and we can put this in the show notes. This link that you provided of your profile and how you rank stuff. And I get what you mean. I just don't think there's really any one way to do it, and I think everyone can agree that there's not really one way to score something, or not something, but there's not really any one way to rate shows.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I do it in probably the most basic bitch way, which I don't really care. I just think it's easier for me. But like for me, just real quick, like 10 is like awesome, watch all the time, DVD, Blu-ray. 9. It was great. There might have been one or two things missing that I probably didn't notice until after the fact, but still, it was still good. 8 was pretty good. There could have been some stuff that was missing that I did notice while watching it. 7 is good. 6 is like, I enjoyed it. I probably won't rewatch it. And then 5 is like, yeah, I enjoyed it while I watched it. It was okay. And then 4, 3, 2, 1 is like, worse, even worse, horrible, garbage. So like, I don't know, like I always think of it like, I guess I think of it like when you're at the doctor, and they're like, rate your pain 1 to 10, like 10 being like I'm dying, and then 9 whatever. Like I kind of think of it like that, I guess. I don't, and that being said, I do often find myself changing scores on mail when I watch something else. That's like, okay, this season's over. It's time to go to my mail and do stuff. And it's like, oh, you know what? This anime did this better than this anime did last season, so I'm going to lower this one a little bit.
Yeah.
I find myself doing that because it's kind of like, I guess, like in one way that Nick described it is that it's supposed to be like a ranking.
That's all it is. I mean, the number a 10 corresponds to an double S tier for me. A 9 is an S tier, 8's an A tier, 7's a B tier, so on. I don't think that the numbers are like percentage of how well it was done because that's totally arbitrary and you can't really measure that. I just put it in like, I just like to clump and group them, right? So I'm like, these are the best of the best.
See,
these are the worst of the worst.
I'm kind of different than that because if I see a show that fully executes what it's going out to do, like as far as story and plot line and everything, if it does whatever it sets out to do very, very well, then yes, it can get a 10 from me. But even then, certain
not perfect.
10s. Yeah, certain 10s.
I don't think anything's
me,
perfect. I've never seen
at least
a
for
perfect
me,
thing.
I can rate in my mind certain 10s higher than other 10s.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Just because, and that goes back to personal enjoyment and personal rating scales. But, I don't think it's fair to say, certain movies out there or certain shows that are out there that have a unique plot premise that may not be as super crazy involved or super crazy deep as some other plot premises that are 10s. But at the same time, I think that they deserve to be realized, and that's why I give them a 10. And this goes back to the Koe no Katachi versus Kimi no Na wa thing.
Yeah, and
I have
Mac talked about that the other day.
I have both of those at a 10 for a very, very good reason.
Yeah, and another way for you, I guess, would be like Redline versus, I don't know, some other show you gave a 10, like Madoka Magica, or I don't know if you gave that one a 10 or not. Let's just use that for sake of argument. Redline has very basic themes. It's not asking too much of the audience to understand it and analyze it, really. You're just in it for the ride. And it's awesome. And you could say it's a 10 out of 10 based on how well it executed that, of just being rule of cool, being fun and exciting and well animated. And then Madoka Magica has like these interesting layered themes going on. There's some subversion going on, and it's got some stuff to dissect. So you could say that it has more depth than Redline, but does it, is it automatically a higher score just because of that? Yes and no. Like this is why I don't like to do
because
the exact score,
Exactly, because rating scales are something that needs to be dynamic. You can't just give absolutism to one certain category, because there's so many different types of shows out there that it becomes really difficult to score them against certain other shows. So you just have to realize, okay, this is really, really good for what it's setting out to be. And this fully realizes the plot and the characters and what this show is supposed to be setting out to do. And that's one of those shows that, yes, it deserves to probably be a 10 if it meets all of your personal criteria. And
Right.
In my opinion, even though you may have a show out there that is more complex, or a show out there that is more dynamic in its themes, that is also a 10, I don't think that having that dynamic show or that more complex show as a 10 necessarily takes away from the other show that, even though it has simpler concepts, is also a 10, because even though you have those two shows of varying degrees of complexity, even though you have those two, it's still a testament to the show and to the writer and to the source material that it should receive the 10, in my opinion.
Sure.
Or it could.
Now, I do have a question.
It depends
though.
how you what your personal preferences
and
are.
This goes back a lot into what you personally view as a 10, or how you personally rate things.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good segue into my next thing here, because, and I know I asked this before, but I'm just to talk about it again without getting too much in the opinion versus what's actually good, whatever, subjective versus objective.
Well, if we're in the context of rating shows and being a critic here, there's no objective truth. I mean, you can say that you can pick the top of the top and the bottom of the bottom and be like, well, that one's obviously more well crafted, but it's like,
no, I know you're right, but
there's no objectivity except for the fact that this was made using this many drawings. That's an objective fact. That's as far as we can go, though. We can't say Redline's objectively better than Madoka. You can't say
okay,
that.
I shouldn't say objective, but general, your subjective opinion versus the general consensus about a show.
Yeah, that's fine.
So, yeah, I should have said that, not objective. But so it's generally true that a lot of people like Cowboy Bebop, right?
Yeah,
correct.
The consensus is that it's a classic, great show.
Yeah, the animation's great, the story is great, the characters are great, blah 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 blah, right? But let's say for me. And I know that we did this in a show trade. I think I traded it to Quokka. I think I traded it to Quokka. When we did the show trade for Bubblegum Crisis, I traded him Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040, and he traded me something else. I don't know. But Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040 has got that soft
It was
spot in me.
Idolmaster, if I remember correctly.
Oh, yeah. Nope, you're
it was
right.
both
Idolmaster.
shows
Yeah,
you guys
which-
didn't like.
I
so funny.
enjoyed Idolmaster. I just don't like idol shows so much that I lost enjoyment in that fact alone. But see, that's another bias. That's another bias I have.
Sam's
right
bias
there.
is that he doesn't like anime.
I wish you'd stop saying
I'm just
that.
kidding.
God, you're
Dude.
such a
I'm just
bitch.
fucking
God.
kidding, dude.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're a cracker. Anyway, so
Idolmaster is anime, Sam. It's all that matters. And Love Live, too.
I like stuff.
Okay.
I like stuff, okay? You bitch. You shut up. Okay.
I'm just kidding.
So what I'm saying, like, okay, because, like, obviously, like, I rated Bubblegum Crisis Tokyo 2040 higher than most people. You know what I mean? Because, like, because it has a story, it has a premise. It didn't really, but there's a couple parts towards the second half of the anime where it kind of loses its way a little bit. It gets it paces a little weird, and some crazy shit happens, and people are like, "What is going on?" You know, but not that it's utterly confusing or anything like that. It's just the way it kind of played out was a little weird to people. Some things didn't make sense, whatever. But I rated it higher because I have a bias towards it. I watched it when I was really young. I really love the ending, like that last scene. I like the whole a group of vigilantes getting in like armor to fight shit, like Sympho gear and things like that, you know? Like, I'm really partial to that kind of stuff. So, like, should I still rate it, like, with my bias in mind, or should I rate it looking at it from, like, what people, what would be, should I rate it lower because it didn't make sense in some parts and kind of lost its way a little bit, or, you know what I mean? Like, should I go with, like, by the book, what's good storytelling, what's good characters, what's good character development, or should I just rate it however I want because I liked it? You know what I mean? Like, where do you draw the line?
And I think this is one of those times, like, you know, what you were talking about, that you have to be dynamic in the way that you score things. I mean, because it is literally impossible to compare two shows and objectively draw the line between them and compare them as if they are on perfectly level ground. I mean, it's just not going to happen. And I think at this point in time, considering that we are anime podcasters, that we have to try and level in a little bit more of the critical analysis of what we do and how we think about things in this aspect. But I mean, it's always going to come down to what do people think about this show. And I mean,
well, and I always say it too. I always like preface it. Like I always, or preface. Is it preface or pre? I don't fucking know. I always
preface. Just kidding.
I always post acid, and I always say it with like, okay, so I may love this a little more than, you know, I may have a
yeah, and I do the exact
you know?
same thing too. Whenever I go into a show that I'm going to hate, you know, a stupid amount more than what I usually do, or love a show a stupid amount more than what I usually do, I'm usually going to preface it.
Well, I think even in our ReZero episode, you kind of even said, you were like, even though the show is still really like dumb, I did go in looking for everything I could to like shit on it at the same time, which in the like the grand scheme of things still didn't really matter because it was still kind of a bad show.
It was
in my opinion, like whatever, but and in Mac's opinion, but yeah, no, I always do say that. I always say, well, you know, I did kind of like Kumamiko, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't
Sasa onegenasai Miko-san.
It was an average show until the ending, and then it became great.
Yeah. Shut the fuck up. No, like
that's the only.
Yeah, like
look,
take
if
away
it didn't have that ending, I wouldn't even think about it. I wouldn't remember it anymore. I'll put it that way.
Right.
It wasn't a good ending.
Right. So take away the ending. Let's, like, for the sake of argument, take away the ending. Nick probably thought it was average, and I could see why most people think it'd be an average kind of
average
just
at best, yeah.
slice of anime. But I disproportionately love it because of Natsu the bear, and because I love bears. Everyone knows that I love bears. I sleep with a stuffed bear, and I have bears. I have a bunch of stuffed bears. Bears are great. Bears are amazing. Every time I watch a video of a grizzly bear, I cry a little bit and laugh. but then I cry some more. Anyways, that's not the point. The point is yes, I always do say that. So I probably will just keep on rating it like that then, if anything, because I mean, at least I know I can explain that to people, like, oh, yeah, you know, I kind of, because I have no problem admitting that stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There are people out there who try and rate something, and then everyone else is like, no, the show sucks.
I mean, it's a form of...
And they try and...
Sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying all that stuff is like a form of cognitive bias where you're so set on a particular way of reasoning, line of reasoning, and you know, you have your own beliefs that you just stick to, and you find ways to interpret shows
Justify
in a
it.
positive light if it has certain aspects that you like. And even if it's not like, you know, as solid as it could be or as consistent as it could be, you still put disproportionate weight on those things. Like
And-
I do
and
that, you do
that's-
that, we all do that.
Yeah, a lot of people do that, including me, because I really tried to love Eureka 7AO, but then it turned into shit, and then I completely
Right.
shit on it. So, I mean, some shows you're going to be able to say, yeah, that show is shit, but you may have a show every once in a while that you're like, you know what, screw logic, this show is great.
Screw the rules,
I'm
I
just
have green
saying,
hair.
Screw the vagina, I have a vagina.
Car games
But,
on
like,
motorcycles!
But I'm just saying there are people like the three of us can do that. You know what I mean? Like we have no problem admitting, oh yeah, you know, I disproportionately love or disproportionately hate this show. But there are people out there who will literally try and like defend their shit, and it's like that's cool, man. Stick to your guns. That's awesome. But at the same time, if like 10 people are telling you that, nah, you might just disproportionately love it, and the show's actually kind of bad a little bit, then I would like to, like, if, you know what I mean? Like, if I'm doing something shitty and 10 people are telling me, dude, that's shitty, I should probably,
Well, that's
like,
a little
be like,
different,
okay,
though, because
yeah.
that's like a social norm or whatever. This is just like, what do you like?
I was using an analogy, but no.
I know.
okay,
Well,
what you mean, yeah.
but with that logic, you can be like, well, I was going around stabbing people, and they said I shouldn't do it, so maybe I shouldn't do it. Like,
Okay, that's a bad analogy, but what I'm
Yeah,
saying
I
is
know what you
like,
mean.
if
Yeah.
yeah, like there are people who will like defend it till they die. You know what I mean? There are people who will defend.
Sword Art Online, dude, best show ever made. All right, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
I'm
I
not
like
gonna
the
do that. I'm not
premise.
gonna get
They're in a
into this.
video game, dude. They're playing a game.
It's
He's got
a trap,
bunch of
don't do it.
waifus. Look at it.
I guess I'm
got a
still
good
slightly
soundtrack.
confused on.
No, I'm just.
I guess I'm still slightly confused on why people don't like that show. I don't know. but-
It's because the writing's bad. Just watch the Mother's Basement videos. He makes his living off of that show.
Sort of.
Yeah, no, like it's like his worst kept secret. It's like he's like, if you want to get a lot of views on YouTube, just put Sword Art Online in the video, and cha-ching.
I don't know, man. I guess I just. Oh well. Anyway, I don't want to get. Off
I know
topic,
why, Sam. I explained it because it looks good and it has a cool premise. That's why it's good. But if you look past that, then I'm not going to get into a discussion about it. But you know, if you look at the details, then it's bad. But that's all I'll say about it. Or it's maybe not bad, but it's not good. I don't know. Anyway, hey, I got shows like that. School Days, bro. You all know how much I love that show.
God.
There's a lot of bad moments, but goddamn, those good moments. I gave it a high score. I don't care.
Like, I mean, that's good. I mean, as long as we can, you know, say that. I don't know. But also, I think it's really important to, like, when I say stick to your guns, like, definitely do that too. You know, like, don't, you know, I mean, you don't have to look at everything super, like, you don't have to rate, like, if you like a show and every AniTuber or even us are saying that it's bad, I think
Try to convince us that it's
I think
good. Make a good argument.
try convincing us if it's good, and then if not, then at the end of the day, golden rule: you like what you like. Like, you know what I mean? Like, then no one can.
As
tell
long as you don't like try to push it on everyone else, you know, like you gotta, you know, rein it in a little bit. Like, don't try to force Kimi no Na wa down my throat every single week.
Give me an update.
Yeah,
Weekly
shout out
update.
to
No,
somebody.
like, Shout out to that one guy. Yeah. But no, yeah, I can kind of see that. I feel you on that a little bit, because I mean, like, if anything, if I rate a show high and a lot of other people don't, I'll say my piece, and then you take that however you want. I'm not gonna say it again. You know, it's like you just kind of rate it, whatever, according to as Mac put it, according to your personal criteria. And as long as you're I think that's another thing that's important too.
Yeah,
to
your
say,
own personal criteria should be logically consistent. Like, you can't just be given.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yep.
You can't like rate two relatively equal shows like way different scores or whatever. Like, I'm trying to think of, I don't know. Like, let's say you have two cute girl doing cute things shows, and they're, for all intents and purposes, they're basically equal. But then you give one a 10 and you give another one a 5, and it's just like, well, that one had a better bunny in it. It's like, dude, what the fuck? I mean, Goat Yusa is a masterpiece, but still, Chino best girl.
Yeah, the one anime had a pink-haired chick, and the other one didn't.
Yeah,
so
The other one, the one anime was called Asterisk War, and the other one wasn't.
yeah, pretty much. But Ass War.
Great show.
But
Great show.
But like I can think of
The
a couple
greatest
shows.
show.
So I think, and let me ask you this. Let me just ask you guys this. Just so this is for you two personally. Like, I mean, it doesn't really. I mean, it'd be cool to see what our fans think too. You type it
fuck
in the
what
YouTube
they
comments
think
or whatever.
No, I'm just kidding.
But please don't alienate our viewers.
No, it's the
Please don't
cognitive
do
bias right there. Confirmation bias, I mean.
But like, I think one thing that always ends up kind of affecting my score a little bit, in some shows maybe more so than others, just because like obviously slice of lives don't really count as much as others do when it comes to this. But the ending, I think, tilts my score.
Yeah,
a
that's
little
true
bit,
for
sure.
everybody. If you watch a movie and it has like a
I'm-
crazy ending,
I'm big on that too, because I have said from the get-go that I place a stupid amount of bias on the ending, and that's for the simple fact that in my mind, if you're going to dedicate all of this time to watching a show, then you are going to want the ending to satisfy you.
yeah, you want it to be cathartic.
Yeah, you're going
good.
to want to feel that you have been fulfilled and that the show was worth watching, and that is why, in my opinion, the ending is one of the most pivotal, most important parts.
It's
of any
Paramount,
kind of
right,
series.
Mac?
It is Paramount. Yes,
Oh, God.
just
Shout
like
out
the
to Glass
movie
Reflection.
Studios.
It is Yes, it is TriStar Pictures.
I mean, look, the only reason I'm going to disagree with that a little bit, but like, I on a gut feeling level, like I agree because it's the most recent thing you've seen, and that's why if you look at the Crunchyroll Awards that happened earlier this year, Yuri on Ice cleaned up because it happened in the fall, and it was more fresh in people's minds. So like anything that's more fresh in your mind is going to have a bigger weight. But if you go back and rewatch something, you'll see, you'll see every other part of the other aspect of the show, like the beginning, the middle, the end. And let's say the beginning and the middle are great, and then the ending is mediocre. So what? Does that mean the show's a fucking 3 out of 10 just because the ending wasn't perfect? Like, fuck no, that's stupid. Like, that's literally fucking retarded.
I don't believe that an ending should have that much weight over a show to give it a 3 out of 10.
Like,
if it
the beginning
completely
is the
blows
most
ending.
important. If you can't get through the beginning, then you're not going to fucking finish the show. So that's even more important than the ending, I think.
Yeah,
But
that's
they're
true.
all important,
You know,
though. I mean,
you need a good hook at the beginning to get you interested. But even then, you have people who gravitate towards certain subjects more than others and certain themes more than others. And at the end of the day, those that have already completed, the first, major part of the series, they're going to want to feel that that ending catharsis. They're going to want to feel the ending part of the show to give them closure and to make them feel like, yeah, this was time well spent.
I mean, I'm gonna put like the biggest counter argument ever right there. The biggest counter argument to the ending is Paramount is the show called The Wire. It's an early 2000s show that came out on, I think, HBO, and the ending was good and all that, but it wasn't the whole point of the show. Like it was almost like a cyclical type ending. It wasn't. I don't even remember the ending to The Wire, but I know that I think it's one of my favorite TV shows. I think it's one of the best ones ever made, and I don't even fucking remember the ending. Like it doesn't matter that much.
Well, that's why I said before I started on this whole thing about endings. That's why I said, like, obviously for some shows it's not going to matter as much as others.
I mean, like a slice of life. The Wire is weird. The Wire is like this drug war type show. It's not an anime, but it's almost like a slice of life in a way, because it's like a documentary style. It just follows a bunch of people in a realistic fashion, and it's. I think you already said that it doesn't matter as much in slice of life, but I mean that's the thing. Like depending on the type of story, the ending could matter more or less. So yeah, it's like the types of stories are. They have that effect on it. I don't think that it should matter. I don't know. This isn't the whole podcast about just the ending, but I don't think one little area of the story should hold more weight than the work as a whole. And let's see. You can just look at anything.
If the ending affects the work as a whole, then that's part of it.
Yeah. And that would be a negative ding on it if it's bad.
The ending is
same thing with the beginning. Same thing with the middle.
The ending is not just a. I'm just saying the ending is not, for some shows, is not just a little part in the whole show.
And the problem with this is, like, you look at Code Geass R2. It's a shit show in the middle of the season, but the ending everyone says is great. I don't exactly 100% agree with that, but let's just say that it's great. But at the same time, the beginning and middle were a fucking clusterfuck. And somehow it's like top 20 on Mal right now. It's ridiculous.
How could you say it's a clusterfuck? I mean, look back at Table Coon.
Was that season 1? I don't know which season 1 that was. In any case,
just look back at Table Coon.
You guys are right that people place far too much importance on one little area of the show, the ending. Like, oh, the ending, blah, blah, blah. It's just... I don't think that should be the biggest factor in rating a show. Like, I think that's...
I wasn't saying that it is the biggest factor. I'm saying it can tilt my score, possibly, is all I'm saying.
I mean...
And I'm saying it does tilt my score.
And it's not just some little part of the show with some shows. It could be all of it. Because, like, if you have an ongoing story, an ongoing premise, you're going through the motions just to get to this part. It's not just a little part of the show. It could potentially ruin or make the show. In this case, Kumamiko's a great example. Even though that's a slice of life, that's a weird example. And
School Days is a great example.
Actually, that is a pretty good example, because in the whole aspect of Kumamiko, you want Machi, she wants to move out and, do her own thing in the city. And then the ending was just a giant mishandled cock tease, and it was like, nope, we are going to break Machi psychologically, and she's going to stay in this town forever.
And no one learned a damn thing, because Natsu got what he wanted. Machi
well, the creators learned to delete their Twitter and take it off their resume. That was funny.
That's absolute garbage.
But yeah, I mean, look. The way I look at it is...
That tilted my score hardcore on that show.
To move away from the ending topic a little bit, I like to judge shows on whether or not they're going to stand the test of time. Like, how good was the literary performance? Like, how well did it execute on its premise? And there's a cool little article on... It's on the Star... Wikipedia classification. It tells about this one guy named O'Brien. I don't know the history of him, but anyway, he has a good quote. He says he has like a 3-star system instead of, he doesn't do like a 10-point scale. He just has stars, right? It's kind of like Michelin stars almost. Most things don't get any stars because it's like a regular restaurant, right? He gives 1 star to something that stands the test of substance or the test of form. And he gives 2 stars to something to those that have test of substance and the test of form, and they have greater distinction. 3 stars to the things with the highest distinction, and they have everything is closely woven, and it's creatively so strong that those types of stories should be preserved. Basically, that's what he's saying is like highest ranking for stuff, and that's like kind of how I see it. Like if I'm going to give something a 10 on Mal, that's how it's got to be. It's got to be like the best of the best. Like this should be archived in a fucking museum or something. Not just, oh, it was great, I laughed a lot at this comedy, it's a 10 out of 10. I mean, it could be, but it's like it has to be like almost not quite life altering, but it has to like really affect how I think sometimes for me to give it the highest scores. And if it doesn't, then I'll give it somewhere below that. I guess I'm just arguing why I don't give very many 9s or 10s, because they have to get to that top tier level that's, classic tier, basically.
I give a lot of 7 and 8s.
Yeah, most people do.
Well, I've since then started to like, I've turned some of them down to like 6s and 5s.
And some
more later on.
Sorry to interrupt really quick. I know your system seems to be really heavily weighted on how much you want to rewatch something.
How
much you want to rewatch something? Like what's the rewatch value? And that's how you tend to score things, at least from my perspective, which is fine. I'm not judging it. I'm just saying like.
I mean, rewatch value is a part of it, sure, but I think for me, I guess it's how it affected me. Like how the characters of the story were in, the development, the art, and the style of animation. That just all of it, just the normal basic stuff as a whole. How did it make me feel? Right, like Luluco's story. Right, it's a short. I know
you're going by what is it? Emotion rather than like how much it made you think. Right. You'd rather have something make you feel something than make you think something?
I would say I'm going half emotion and half like, okay, so was this executed well? Did they do this well? I would say. Well, no, I would say like 40 emotion, 60 how well did they do this? How well did they execute it? Kind of thing. Right? Because like if Kimi no Na wa was animated differently, maybe I would have rated it a little lower because the animation would have
or
been
higher if it was better.
Yeah,
somehow.
you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, if
but like,
did it.
yeah. Like, so I would say it's like 40 emotion, or no, I would say this.
I don't think there should be a concrete way to put it, because you have.
I'm just
55, 45.
Yeah.
Like, you have to be dynamic whenever it comes to things like this. You have to be able to realize, okay, this show doesn't fit into my predetermined criteria perfectly. I'm going to have to score it a little bit differently.
Yeah, I have the perfect example for that. To step on your toes a little bit. Angel's Egg. We talked about this earlier in a previous episode, but Angel's Egg totally breaks the mold for my scoring system.
And it does.
Because there's no story.
That is a perfect example.
There's almost no characters either. It has nothing. But I gave it a 10. Like
even though I didn't like Angel's Egg, like, period, I did not care for it whatsoever.
Not many people will. Yeah.
Yeah. You have to sit back and think, how do I rate Angel's Egg? It does not conform to any of your predetermined criteria. And that really is the perfect example for this episode and for rating in general. You have to learn to be dynamic in how you rate things. Like, there cannot be a clear-cut way to do this. It's going to have to be determined off of your basic opinion of how the show has been done. And this is why, coming full circle here, this is why I think that a lot of the arguments that spring up over how people rate shows they can probably be attributed mostly to people being stuck up in their own way of rating, but they don't really sit back and realize that other people may have different opinions about that certain show, and if they just take a second to listen to what they have to say about it instead of immediately bashing it, then they can actually learn from them and be like, oh, I didn't really consider where you were coming from in this. And
yeah, it can actually change your enjoyment of the show.
Yeah, you can grow from that. And I think that is a very, very big part of rating shows. You should never get completely caught up in how big you are or how many people are following you. I'm looking at you, the big anime YouTubers.
Well, they're trying to make money, so it actually matters.
Yeah, they're trying to make money. Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of them are doing pretty well, but anyway, yeah.
Yeah, some of them are doing pretty well.
It's like their source of living for a few of them.
But yeah, by analyzing every little tiny tidbit point
of Sword Art Online.
Yes, exactly.
Dude, that's how they make money. Like they gotta sell out a little bit, but
yeah, but if you take a step back from everything and look at it, with a halfway clear sense of mind, you'll realize that at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is what do you think about the show. It really is.
Well, yes and no, because you already described it earlier there. But you said you have to listen to other people, right? And
I mean,
and
at the end of the day, though, even if you go and read these other opinions and they don't change your mind, it still comes down to what you think about the show.
Yeah,
and that can be said for if
but you have to be open-minded and willing to hear out someone else's argument on something or their analysis. Because if you're just going to look at something and just close your eyes and ears to all the other analysis, then you're not. I don't think you're getting the whole big picture necessarily, unless you're some kind of genius. Because everybody misses stuff, even from their favorite shows. Like it happens all the time.
Yeah.
So it's important to be able to be open-minded and to be able to listen to other people at least some of the time.
Yeah. And I agree 100% with that. You have to be open to criticism on how you rate things if you're even going to seriously attempt to take your rating scale or your MAL seriously. You have to be able to look into things and investigate and determine if maybe you missed something about a show. You've got to learn to be open-minded. And I think that is the big picture and the big message that we should probably bring with this episode is that, learn that your asshole stinks just as much as everybody else's, and learn to take criticism. Yeah, learn to take criticism.
If you ate eggs.
Yeah. And learn from your own mistakes and learn from others' mistakes. And just try and form the best opinion that you can in your mind about a certain show. That's all of what this comes down to.
Yeah. I guess for my final thought, I just made a bunch of lip smacking there. That was annoying. For my final thought, I just want to point out a couple of cool little resources. There's a site called graph.anime.plus. We can link in the show notes. It gives you a lot of cool information and stats about your MyAnimeList profile. So it shows you what you rated shows, gives you a little bar graph showing that, and what you've seen, how it compares to the average MAL scores, etc. It's really cool, a little tool to just see where you're at with your rating system. And one more resource is RedditAnimeList.net. It's like MyAnimeList.net, but they take instead of the huge swaths of people on MyAnimeList, they take whoever opted into the Reddit Anime List, and they use their scores instead. So you're gonna get a different top list instead of seeing, certain shows aren't on there. Gintama's still on there. They didn't actually do the thing where they got rid of or they combined all the entries, which they should. but
They should, because there is no
Fucking
reason
stupid.
for that many iterations of the Gintama season
it's
to hold
one
that
franchise.
many spots.
Count it as one franchise. Put it in the top 10. I don't care, but I don't need 10,
Yeah,
10 fucking
exactly.
things for it. And yeah, and then one more really cool thing that's just cool to look at is we can link in the show notes there's a top 10 Mal image going around. It's from the past 10 years, so 2006 to 2016, and it shows like kind of a cool little progression of what's on the top 10 of Mal over the past
Every
10
year.
years. Yeah, each year. So you'll see what happens before the Gintama plague covers everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Which it's a good show. It's just like, God damn it, Mal. Fucking code that shit better. Like, how hard is it to do that? It can't be that hard. It really can't be that hard. Seriously.
No, it can't.
I mean, it's probably harder than I think, but, whatever.
So on that, on
And
saying
rant.
that, my final thought would be, it's gonna be hard to really sit back and try to objectively compare everything you think about with everybody else, because you're immediately going to think, hey, my opinion is better than yours. But, at the end of the day, I think the anime community can benefit more from actually having forward-moving discussions about things like this, especially in the rating area, because there's always going to be a lot of disagreement in the rating area. All you have to do is look at what people think about their quote-unquote waifus. That is pretty much the epitome of rating differentials. But yeah, that's my final thought. Learn to learn from others. Learn from your peers. That's the big thing.
Have a lot of senpais.
My final thought is, as long as you stay consistent with your personal criteria and you don't, at the end of the day, it's anime and you like what you like. Don't take it too personally. And I think rating, like Nick said earlier, it's just a thing to kind of record stuff. It doesn't contribute to the actual discussion and things like that. I think you keep those things in mind. You can just rate shit what you rate shit, like what you like, and do what you do.
Yeah.
So it's all gonna be good.
Yeah, and that is perfectly true. Couldn't have said it better myself. So, on that bombshell, I have been Mac, and with me I have had Sam and Nick, and we have been the Anime Summit Rating Podcast.
That's a 10.
Like and sub.
That's a 10.
That's a 10.
That's a 10.
10 out of 10
10 out
You
podcast.
guys have seen that video, right, where the guy's eating ice cream?
And 9 out of 10 needs more sound.
I'll link it. It's funny.